Welcome to Rituals and Ash. This is the quiet turning point of the first cycle, where everything you have heard so far comes home to the one who was listening. Not to fire, not to wind, not to water, not to earth, but to the simple, luminous fact that you were aware of them all. Take a breath. Notice how even this small gesture already contains the whole teaching. Arising, staying for a moment, passing away, beginning, middle, end, appearing, changing, gone. Every element has been showing you this, each in its own language. Tonight, they return as one voice, the voice of insight, fire. Seeing that change is the only constant, fire was never only about heat. It was about the truth you could not negotiate with. What is born will change, and what changes will not stay. You have watched feelings flare and fade, desires ignite and cool. Identities you once protected like sacred altars become stories you barely recognize. Insight begins the moment you stop arguing with this. Suffering is not in the change itself, but in the secret contract you made with life that said, "Stay as I want you to be." When you see that no such contract ever existed, the fire is still hot, but it no longer burns in the same way. You learn to warm your hands at it instead of stepping into the flames. This is the wisdom of fire. Not that life will spare you from endings, but that you can move with endings without losing yourself. Air, seeing thoughts as passing weather. Air taught you about what cannot be held. A thought appears, insists on being believed, and if you do not look closely, it feels like the voice of truth itself. I am not enough. This will never change. If I let go, I will lose everything. But look again. Every thought, even the cruel ones, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It rises, forms a shape just long enough to be noticed, then dissolves into the same silence it came from. Insight deepens when you begin to relate to thoughts not as commands, but as movements. You do not have to fight them. You do not have to decorate them. You do not have to become them. You can watch them like clouds, knowing that sky and weather are not the same. The mind may storm, but awareness remains clear. In that clarity, you begin to see how much of your life was spent inside stories that were never final, inside judgments that were never absolute. What changes when you see this? You become less quick to conclude, less eager to punish yourself, less afraid of what the next thought might say. You learn to breathe with the wind instead of being blown apart by it. Water. Seeing feeling as something meant to move water was the teacher of tenderness. You have known days when grief sat in the chest like a stone, when the heart felt too heavy to lift, when tears refused to come. And you have known the relief of a single tear finally falling, the way it softened something that words could not touch. Insight arrives when you realize that feeling is not the enemy. It is the body's way of flowing with what is true. Emotions left unacknowledged do not disappear. They harden into shapes that quietly steer your life. But when you allow yourself to feel without acting out, without drowning, without telling yourself a new story on top of it, something miraculous happens. The feeling moves. It rises, crests, and recedes. Like waves returning to the sea, compassion is born here. Not as an idea, but as a physical understanding that every heart, including your own, is doing its best to stay soft in a world that can be so sharp. The more you let the inner waters move, the less you need to hide. The less you hide, the more available you become to the truth of the moment. Earth. seeing stability in allowing things to rest. Earth taught you about the ground beneath all effort. There is a part of you that is always trying to improve, to fix, to redeem, to explain, to prove that you deserve to exist. But there is also a deeper part that does not move so quickly. It waits, it listens, it holds. You glimpse it in those rare moments when you stop striving for just long enough to feel the weight of your own body supported by the floor, the chair, the bed, by something that is not asking you to earn it. Insight grows when you surrender, briefly, into this quiet support, not as a collapse, but as a conscious bow to the truth that you do not sustain yourself alone. You are held by ground, by history, by countless unseen lives, by causes and conditions you did not create. When you let your inner world touch this earth, rushing slows. Defensiveness softens. The nervous system discovers that it does not have to be on guard all the time. Equanimity is not indifference. It is the strength to remain steady in the presence of both joy and pain. The mind becomes like earth, willing to receive everything without clinging to anything. Awareness, the clear mirror of all elements beyond fire, air, water, and earth. There is something that does not burn, does not blow, does not flood, does not erode. It is not separate from them, yet it is never harmed by them. Call it awareness. Call it knowing. Call it the simple fact that you are here, conscious and able to notice. This is the element that never needed protection, because it was never in danger. Notice how every experience you have ever had has appeared in this open space of knowing, stayed for a while, and then vanished, while the knowing itself remained. Even when you were lost in confusion, something in you knew you were confused. Even in fear, something in you could sense, this is fear. Insight ripens when you begin to identify less with the contents of awareness and more with awareness itself. Not as an escape, but as a homecoming. Instead of thinking, I am broken, you begin to see. Brokenness is being experienced here, and even that is being gently known. There is so much kindness in this shift, so much room, so much quiet. Integration, seeing life as a single teaching. When fire, air, water, earth, and awareness are no longer competing for your attention, they begin to reveal themselves as different faces of the same truth. Everything arises, everything changes, everything passes away. And through it all, awareness keeps opening its arms. Insight is not a special vision reserved for the few. It is the simple recognition that your life has been teaching you all along. Every heartbreak, every unexpected kindness, every failure, every moment of ease, each one a letter in a long, patient message. Nothing is solid enough to imprison you. Nothing is permanent enough to define you. You are allowed to begin again. The more clearly you see this, the less you need to cling to any moment, even the beautiful ones. The beauty is in the seeing, not in the seen. Returning, bringing wisdom into ordinary days. So what does all of this mean when you wake up tomorrow? It means you might pause before believing the harshest thought. You might notice that an emotion is asking to move, not to be judged. You might remember that your body is allowed to rest even when your to-do list is unfinished. It means you might speak more gently to yourself because you finally understand how sensitive the inner world really is. You might not change your entire life in a day. You do not need to. Insight is less like an explosion and more like a sunrise. Gradual, quiet, undeniable. Again and again you will forget and remember, contract and open, tighten and release. This, too, is part of the path. Wisdom is not the end of struggle. It is the end of being entirely lost inside it. Closing, when seeing itself becomes prayer. Take one last breath with intention. Feel it enter, expand, and leave without trying to hold it. Know that in this simple act, you have touched all the elements at once: the spark of life, the movement of air, the tide of feeling, the weight of the body, the clear space that witnessed it all. You do not need to become anything else to deserve this clarity. You only need to keep returning to the place that has never left you, the quiet, watching presence beneath every thought, every mood, every moment. When insight awakens, even ordinary days become part of a wordless prayer. Every breath, every pause, every act of gentle noticing is a way of saying yes to the truth of how things are. Reclaim the future. Reclaim the soul.